One of the problems we face when writing tends to be in the development stage of characters. And it comes down to what we know about them once we begin the actual scripting process. For most of us, our characters seem as real before we start as someone we went to high school with. And that's the problem. I remember high school, and I can tell you that what I knew about my classmates was limited. Limited for one simple reason, and so simple that when I tell you, you will instantly see your characters in a different perspective. The reason your knowledge of them was so limited is that their knowledge of themselves was in fact limited. Meaning, you might know what cars they like and what soda they drink, but not even they knew how they would go on to respond to entirely new situations. That's not to say that they don't have a pathology. They have some lived experiences and therefore know in those instances how they will react. But in any story, those are normal conflicts and they only paint the picture of your protagonist's archetype. In our stories, they're used to establish the baseline for our character's personality. It's when we're faced with new challenges, otherwise known as the inciting incidents, that not only they learn about themselves, but so do we. This is where we learn to care for them and hope for them. Now, everyone knows that characters should have an arc, or transformation in their beliefs, their ideologies, their presuppositions about society, life, themselves, or even others. But imagine how cognitive dissonance would work in a character if all they did was defend their misbeliefs from the beginning to the end, no change. That's not a good story. Just look at how that turns out for the bad guys in the end of Act 3. Those guys are hard-headed. But writing a character profile when you are the one holding all the points of view for a given character kind of makes you the one with cognitive dissonance if you don't take this next step. So let me set the scene. You've written your character profile, probably from a template you found online, your favorite screenwriter or novelist. You've worked hard on your beats and imagined your story more times than a girl has imagined her own wedding day. Then you start writing the script. And suddenly you get to a place where your protagonist was supposed to respond in a certain predictable way, and you realize, my character has one more layer that I've forgotten: growth and change before this story. But imagine how cognitive dissonance works in a character if all they do is defend their misbeliefs from the beginning to the end, no change. That's not a good story. Just look at how it turns out for the bad guys by the end of Act 3. Those guys are hard-headed. But writing character profile when you're the one holding all the points of view for any given character, it kind of makes you the one with cognitive dissonance if you don't take this extra step. My favorite example of this is in the Sherlock Holmes series of short stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Take Dr. John Watson, for example. Before Watson ever meets Sherlock Holmes, he's lived an entirely full life. He's served the military, been wounded in Afghanistan, and experienced both success and disappointment. He has stories to tell, and if you asked him, he would probably gladly share them. But there's a problem. Watson can only pass on the wisdom that he's earned. And at this point in his life, he hasn't yet learned to question his own conclusions. He sees the world the way that most of us do. He accepts his first impression as truth. That is, until he meets Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock doesn't simply teach Watson how to solve mysteries. He teaches him how unreliable his first impression can be. Time again, Watson confidently reaches one conclusion, only to watch Sherlock reveal a completely different truth hidden beneath the same evidence. And what's fascinating is Watson's past doesn't change. His experiences don't change. Only his understanding of them do. And that's the important distinction. Your characters don't just carry the events of their past into your story. They carry their interpretation of those events. And sometimes those interpretations are accurate, but often they aren't. One of the most powerful character arcs you can write isn't about changing what happens to your character. It's about changing what they believe happened and what it meant. That's where genuine growth comes from. So let me give you an example from a script I'm currently crafting. A grandfather buys a gift for his granddaughter, and the gift I attribute some meaning to. The meaning is based on an experience that I know about my character. Let's say he's experienced some trauma and fear in his past. So the gift we assign for him to give is supposed to remedy the same thing for his granddaughter. Or so I gladly began to write, because why not? It does make a nice full circle, after all. This is where I needed to stop. The part of us that wants to see that connection is so strong that we miss the other layer, past growth. Growth before your story even takes place. Sure, my character experienced something long ago, but why would he think that his granddaughter would feel the same way as he did about a different situation? Why would he react to her situation as if it were his own? And this is where we really learn about our character, so don't overlook this. Our train of thought goes something like this: he experienced trauma and fear, therefore he knows how she feels. What the next layer gives us goes deeper. So he was afraid, and all he knew how to do was hide from fear, but growth taught him that hope vanquishes fear, a lesson the granddaughter is too young to learn on her own. So now, the gift is not about being afraid, it's about hope. As writers, we often spend hours inventing our characters' pasts, but we rarely stop to ask the more important question: what is my character misunderstood about their own life? Because until they discover the answer, they can only pass on the world as they first perceived it, not as it truly is. Now, when I'm scripting, I keep this in mind, this second look. You might have already thought of this when doing your profile, but I promise that there is more to be discovered and deeper meaning to be attributed if you keep open to this in the actual scripting process. That's all I have for this video, but I would like to get your thoughts on this topic. What steps do you take when you develop characters? And if you'd like to learn more about how I develop characters, please comment below. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, don't forget to like and share this video. Thank you.